move over to the light. Okay. My name is Rick Colhoun. I'm pastor of the Vineyard Community Church.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Our church started in Latham, a very prosperous suburban community about 5 miles from here.
Yep.
And 5 years ago, we began the process of moving to Cohoes, and knew it was going to be a big cultural change from our rich suburban community to downtown Cohoes. A lot of urban poverty here, and so we changed our mission statement that we wanted to reach out to the homeless, the hungry, and the hurting. Homeless, those who are literally homeless in transitional housing, and but also those who are spiritually homeless with no church home. So we're reaching out to the homeless, to the hungry, those who literally are hungry. So we have lots of programs here to feed the hungry.
Are any going on now?
We don't have anything today. The last 5 Sundays of the month, last 5 days of the month, we do a free luncheon, and then the first Sunday of the month we do a free luncheon as well. Very well attended because people run out of food at the end of the month. So that's why we do the lunches on the last 5 days of the month.
Why do you suppose people run out of food at the end of the month?
It's because their EBT cards, they spend their money. They
the what now?
Their food stamp card. It's called EBT. They don't give out physical food stamps anymore. It's like a credit card that you use in a store. It's called an EBT card.
That's kind of neat.
That's what people use for food stamps. There's no physical stamps anymore.
Whoops. I make a little mess of the thing.
So people run out at the end of the month. Therefore, we do a free lunch the last 5 business days. Every Saturday in this community, at a church 100 yards from here, they do a free meal every Saturday that's seats about 150 to 200 people. They serve around 300 meals every Saturday night at the United Church, which is
really
over here. So that's just people from the downtown, the 4 square blocks of downtown Cohoes. I forget the number. You can look it up. The extreme poverty, the percentage of people who live below the poverty line, I think is like 60 to 70%.
Woo-hoo.
So it's a very poor. The city of Cohoes is only 4 square miles. So it's a small city, densely populated. A lot of nice neighborhoods up on the hill to different neighborhood, but down.
Sure, Green Island, Latham, Troy has its moments.
Right. So yeah, and Cohoes, the city of Cohoes, the 4 square miles, again, it bumps up. You can't tell when you're in Prosperous Colony and then you're actually in Cohoes. You can't tell the difference. But you come downtown and you see around the downtown area here a lot of older housing stock that is now very inexpensive, hence a lot of HUD housing. The city has a lot of municipal housing as well. And some of the old mills that were redone as HUD housing are downtown now. The city's redoing these big old mills along the river, making them high-end loft apartments for $1,800, $2,000 a month. So that's the big housing boom in Cohoes, are the new developments along the river for middle and upper middle class folks. But there still is a large housing stock that draws in a lot of poverty.
Yeah, because I've been down near Cohoes Falls, and like some of those houses, it's like, oh my God, like these people have nothing. It's like it's sad, you know. You know, you want to help them out, but
right down by the falls, you have people spending $2,000 to $3,000 a month for a loft apartment.
Certainly, I've seen some of that too. Cohoes kind of has a little blend of everything.
Yep.
So you said you came from a poor family in rural.
Yeah, I grew up in rural upstate New York, Wayne County, between Rochester and Syracuse. Wayne County has one of the lowest per capita income of any county in New York State. I grew up in that, thought that was normal. That was my world. And
so you didn't notice that you were poor?
Right. And actually, I wasn't brought up poor. My parents were from Buffalo, both went to Catholic schools, some college. My dad ran his own business. But when we moved to that rural area, we were poor. We definitely had no money.
Yeah.
It wasn't generational poverty. And that's the thing that I've learned a lot about, is the difference between generational poverty and situational poverty. We were situationally poor when my family moved to Wayne County, and it was cheap to live there, and we lived there, but we were not in generational poverty. We were situationally poor. My dad's business eventually took off, and I grew up very middle class.
Oh, well, that's nice. That's great.
But I've learned, and what we have here in Cohoes, the challenge is to help not just those with situational poverty. Those folks, is relatively easy to help them, give them a hand, a leg up, and they'll get on their own. But for those who've been brought up in generational poverty, been brought up in a culture of poverty, that's the challenge that we have. That's the thing that we see here in the city of Cohoes, and that's the challenge. If you're taking a course, you need to think through these issues and think about the differences between generational poverty and situational poverty.
Now, like, what are the differences? Like out in Wayne County, were there like homeless shelters? Were there soup kitchens? Mm-hmm. Were there like what's the difference in terms of help that people can get?
In rural context, I worked for a while with a high school delinquency prevention program providing tutoring for kids who dropped out of school. So many kids drop out of school because they can get low-income farm jobs, and yet then they're stuck. And again, this generational poverty kicks in where they're just going to be in this vicious cycle. So in those communities, education programs have been helpful. Providing transportation things for, and again, a rural area bus system. I remember writing an article helping people understand the bus network, that there was some transportation. But they're different challenges in a rural area than in a city area.
Yeah.
Employment, there's seasonal employment in a rural area. Everybody can work if they want to. There's always some farm employment during harvest time. But then the rest of the year, well, you've made enough money, we're going to just live on welfare, we're going to just get by. And that becomes a cycle in a rural area of working part of the year, living on welfare the other part of the year, or working under the table and then collecting benefits. That's just part of the deal.
Yeah. And
it happens in this urban context, but that's when I see rural poverty where I grew up, that was a typical lifestyle for folks who were in this generational trap of being stuck. And a lot of his education and the availability of seasonal farm work had some impact.
Yeah, and that's the problem. You grow up poor, even if you do well in school. You can't afford to go to college, and if you can't afford to go to college, well, then you really can't get out of it. There could be the next Ken Jennings. I'm sure you remember him from Jeopardy a number of years ago. There could be the next Ken Jennings sitting, 2 blocks from here. But if he can't go to college, well,
And in the rural area, that was definitely, to go to community college is 30 miles away. Where I grew up, you had to drive 20 to 30 miles to go to a community college.
Where did you go?
I went to forestry school up in the Adirondacks, and my dad paid for it. He had his own business.
It's true.
So he didn't even want to apply for financial aid because he had his own cash business. So he didn't want anybody in his stuff. So he paid for me to go to college. And,
that's nice of him.
So, and then I went to Bible college and then got married. And then my wife and I...
Now that's interesting. From what I know about priests, they can't get married.
Well,
how'd you do that?
We're a Protestant denomination. So Protestant clergy often get married. So I met my wife in, her dad was a pastor, and we met in Bible college, and then have worked among the poor. My wife is a professional health worker and works for the county health department, and actually it was her introduction as a county health worker to Bridges Out of Poverty, which is a training that the whole Schenectady County Health Department, social services, public schools all went through. We're bringing that training, Bridges Out of Poverty, by Ruby Payne, to the city of Cohoes. And so we've sponsored workshops. We're going to be doing a full 2-day training. We have a monthly meeting of all the service providers here in the city because we believe that no one agency has all the resources necessary to really serve and transform a community. We have to work together. And so Bridges gives us common language, a common philosophy, a common launching out point. And so we are now the lead agency in this community for Bridges Out of Poverty. It's my assistant is the head person of that informal network, and we're starting to raise money so we can afford to do the training and make it available to all the public school social workers, to all the different social service agencies here in the city.
That's phenomenal. Thank you for your time, sir.
Okay, all right.
It's nice to meet you.